Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video, I'm going to do a complete in-depth review of the 2023 Kawasaki Z400, and I'm going to compare that to the 2023 Kawasaki Ninja 400. So we've done these vehicles before in a previous video where I was outside, but not the 2023 model. But that's what we're going to do on this channel. If you're interested in these bikes, we're going to come back to them again and again and again. And if you have questions, let me know in the comments below and just subscribe. We'll continue to answer your questions there, and we'll come back and answer your questions in future videos. So I'm going to try to hit on some of the things that I didn't hit on in the past in these bikes because they're carryover models. But I want to thank Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports. This is the largest volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, and they give me complete access to their vehicles to allow me to make more videos for you. So let's get going with the review. We're going to start with the Z400. So I want to start off being clear that I am a huge fan of both of these bikes. I really like them, and there's a whole bunch of misconceptions about smaller bikes out there, and let's just clear a few of them out of the way right off the bat. First of all, this 400cc bike goes about 200 kilometers an hour. You don't have to believe me, you can search on YouTube when you're done watching this video and you will see them going about 200 kilometers an hour, 120-ish miles an hour. They have all the speed you need. And there's a term that people use about smaller bikes that you outgrow them. It's not a term I use here because I think small bikes can be perfectly suitable for experienced riders. And to be very blunt, there are guys that can take these 400cc bikes around a track and just smoke bigger bikes. So I don't think you outgrow bikes like this, and especially with this 400cc class of bike. I do think that some people sometimes want more speed, a little bit more acceleration, that kind of thing. And hey, if that's what you want in the future, absolutely no problem. But let's not use the term outgrow because this is a bike that is a blast for experienced riders. And what's cool about it for experienced riders is you can't move up in size, up in engine size from these bikes and replicate the feeling of these bikes. These bikes are both really lightweight. That makes them so much fun to drive. It's just something that you can really flick back and forth. There's not a fun feeling in any other bigger bike that can match what these do, and that's what makes them kind of amazing for what they do. So they've got all the power you need, and there's still enough power to be fun, but the overall riding experience, the entire experience is fun. It's not just when you give the throttle and go well beyond legal speeds. The entire bike is a blast to ride. So when they had these smaller CC bikes, which again used to be 250s, 300s, now they've moved up to 400 as the smaller CC Ninja and Z model. The big problem with the previous bikes is they looked like small bikes. They had scrawny little wheels, they had like simplistic looks, they were super narrow, and they just looked like toys. These ones have always done a good job of looking like a real motorcycle. Now it's still very compact, and when I sit on this bike compared to the Ninja, you're gonna see the seating positions different, so we'll get to that a little bit later in this video as well. But for 2023, they've touched up the frame here in this green color. Now we'll zoom in closer in a little bit here so you can see it up close. But this green color makes this look exactly like the Z900. So again, that big bike feel from a distance especially, you'd have trouble telling these two apart if you're just an average motorcycle person or even just an average person. But it really has that big bike feel to it, which I really appreciate. It's also fairly comfortable, it's very approachable, it's very rideable. So let's take a look at some of the details here as we move through this bike, and then we'll pull the Ninja in, show you some of the differences with that bike, some of the things you get on that one that aren't on here, and the pros and cons of each, and then we'll talk about who these bikes are probably for and who would enjoy them the most. So I want to start off with saying, oh, it's going to steer itself away. I want to start off with saying the styling of this bike. This is a naked class of bike. They used to call this a standard class of bike, and the standard bikes used to have all the round headlight and kind of the basic kind of look. Naked bikes, the idea was no fairing. Well, this one's got a little bit of fairing in here just for styling. And the idea with this fairing is to give you an aggressive sport bike type look, but you still have a fairly upright seating position and your hands are at a different angle. Now, to be fair, the Ninja 400 is also a fairly upright sport bike, but there's a very different hand position. So we're going to show you some of that in here. What I like here is this housing here is very modern, full LED lighting out front, well, full LED headlighting out front here, which is really nice. Not only is it very bright, but it also, that white color helps you easily identify what you're seeing because that white color is closer to daylight, so your brain doesn't have to do an extra process of thinking, you know, what is it that I'm seeing? It just, you'll right away recognize things at night with these bright headlights here. You've got signals on the stalks here, that's going to be different on the Ninja. You've got a different dash in here, we're going to cover some of that, and then the whole handlebar and mirror placement are also different, and there's pros and cons to that as well, so we're going to talk about that here right now. So taking a look at the dash here, I kind of like this. It's a very simplistic and very modern in a lot of ways. So we'll just turn the key here. My second key is actually stuck in the handlebars there. There we go. Turn the key here like that. And you can see you've got a full digital dash beneath a marker here. So the entire thing is digital. You're going to see on the Ninja, there's a different tachometer here, but you sort of saw how that built when we turned it on. You can very much see what you've got for tachometer. This bike is completely out of gas. That's why there's some flashing down here. But you've got some sort of nice basic features in here. So as we cycle through, you've got kilometers per liter. I believe you can do liters per 100 kilometers. You've got the average kilometers per liter, same thing with liters per 100 kilometers. Then you've got your range, which is your distance to empty. All this is again on the bottom here. And then the clock down there as well. You've got your temperature gauge over on this side here, which is a little harder to see on the angle we're filming at. Big red warning light, all the warning lights that you need. And then what I like is you have your gear indicator front and center. Whether you're a beginner rider or an experienced rider, a lot of experienced riders will say, oh, I don't need a gear indicator. Let me tell you, gear indicators are super helpful for having fun on the road. You can glance down, know exactly what gear you're in. You'll know what to do when you release that clutch and off you go. So that just is just a really compact, clear, easy to read dash that gives you everything you need and really nothing you don't. It's nice to have that fuel efficiency numbers in there so you have a sense of how you're riding. Even when you're riding aggressively, you can sort of see, oh, it doesn't really affect fuel efficiency that much on this fairly efficient bike. So that's one of the things I like down there. Now, we're going to talk about seating position when we sit on the bike, but the handlebars here, which we'll get to in a second, there are benefits more than just seating position. So we'll just get to that in 1 second as we show you the controls first, and then we'll get there. I'm going to keep coming back to this handlebar position. Obviously, I kind of muffled my words there because there's a lot of little benefits to these handlebar things. First of all, the controls are the same on each bike. So you have a little trigger over here, which can flash your high beam. You have your high beam and low beam right there. Signals, of course, right there. Simple stuff, and then a horn down here. Same thing on both bikes. You also have what's called a slipper and assist clutch. And if you've ever hopped on any motorcycle, you're going to find that the clutch is much heavier on basically every other motorcycle than this. So the slipper and assist clutch does two things for you. One, it makes for a very light clutch pull. I can pull this in with just my pinky quite easily like that. So really nice if you're driving in traffic with this, or if you're on and off the clutch a lot, really easy to pull in, which makes it just easier to drive. The other thing that the same system does, one of the things the system does is make it a light clutch pull. The second thing it does is if you are aggressively downshifting, you can create a lot of engine braking, and on an aggressive maneuver, high rev maneuver, whether you screw up or whether you're on the track or something like that, sometimes a quick release of that clutch when you're in the high revs can cause the rear wheel to slip a little bit if you don't have this system. Now, it still could slip, but the idea is this will work to prevent a rear wheel slip when you mess up a downshift. And it's something they use on the track so you can do it aggressively, but I think on this bike, it's also useful just in the street. If you just kind of release that clutch a little too quick on your downshift and you have the revs not where they need to be, instead of having that really, having the back wheel just kind of step out a tiny bit, this is going to work against that. So it's a race type feature that is both beginner friendly and useful for everybody. And that's again an example of this bike. These are the bikes I recommend most often to beginners, but they're also something that have features that are good for every kind of rider. The other thing I want to point out about the handlebar here is you're going to notice on the Ninja there's no handlebar. There's what they call clip-ons. Handlebars can be nice to add accessories, phone mounts, different GPS type things. There's lots of benefits to having a round handlebar. We're just going to slide the camera over here as well. If you wanted to put something in the center here, you've got that option. So sometimes this is a little easier way to mount some of those accessories than something like the Ninja will have with its clip-ons, but again, there are options on both bikes. So that's just a couple pieces of the different hand position. The other thing you're going to notice here is on the Ninja, you're going to have it pulled in like this, where on the Z, it's a little bit out like that. Again, we'll show you the seating positions moving forward, but that's a couple things to look for as I sit on both and some of the key differences between these two bikes. I want to show you the front wheel here of the Z400. It's going to be the same idea on the Ninja 400. So you've got a single disc on this side, so not dual disc, which for the speed you're doing here, you've got all the stopping power you're going to need. And then you also have this little ring here. That's part of your ABS sensor. So you can see a little ABS sticker here. So you have really good quality front brakes. They're ventilated. This pedal style can also help dissipate heat, although I think they are more style than heat dissipation with this pedal style rotors because some of the bigger bikes have moved away from these pedal styles back to round rotors again. But you do have high quality brakes here that work very well. And ABS is something that I think you should look for in a street bike regardless now. It's becoming more and more common. Whether you're a beginner or not, it's just the ability to you know, if you're jamming on your brakes when you're stopping, to have something that'll help prevent that wheel from locking up, especially if you're in an emergency situation. Sometimes you forget your skills for that split second. Well, this is going to work with you just to keep those wheels from locking up. And of course, it's front and rear ABS. I want to take a look at this new colorway here, as well as taking a look at the engine here. A little hard to see on that angle, but you can see a lot of that frame in here in that green color, which carries out through here. Like I said, this is a really close match to the Z400, so a much, much bigger bike. And this really does give it that same look. Everything down here painted black. This is a $399 4-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, fully modern in every way, and it has been proven reliable. It is an absolute blast to drive, nice high revs, and again, very manageable powertrain. So you can have fun, but you can get on it from day one and kind of just feel like you're not super intimidated. It's still plenty quick. You have to get used to the speed of this bike, but it is something that is a very manageable powertrain, very nice to have. So overall look, pretty clean look here. And like I said, these frame rails in through here. The closer you get to the bike, the more you can see it with this new colorway. I really like the way they did that. The other thing you can see on the rear here is the back wheel there. Again, we talked about the disc brakes and everything else. Of course, the disc brake on the rear there as well. I should mention that you have 17-inch tires here. So those are race-size tires. They are a little narrower. So usually a bigger bike will have about a 120 in the front. This is a 110. I believe it's a 130 in the back. Part of the slightly smaller tire size here contributes to that whole idea of giving you that really nimble bike. So again, they're not so tiny that they're just like budget bike tires and they look like a kid's bike, but that little bit more narrowness gives you that real flickability, so you can really kind of get this bike back from one side to the other side in a hurry. And again, it's part of what contributes to giving these bikes a really unique feel that you can't get in a bigger bike. Take a look at the sort of the rear end of this bike, this tail style look. These are actually basically carryover between both bikes. I can't really see a whole lot of difference, but there's a couple things I want to point out. You do have a rear seat. It looks small from that angle. It is big enough to take a passenger, but again, like any sporty type bike, it's not a massive rear seat to take a passenger for a long time. And for this size of bike, you're probably not going to take a passenger everywhere, but you absolutely can. You've got your foot pegs right there. Below the foot pegs here is a little hook type area. That is a functional hook along with this one right here. Hopefully you can see that right there. This is the kind of bike that is going to have to serve more than just one purpose. It's not like it's only take it to the track or only do commuting. A lot of people are going to do, you know, go to the store, go to work, go to school, do those kinds of things in this. And having these little hooks here, you've got luggage that you can strap to here. Now, I just bought a Z900 RS for myself. I have luggage that's going to hook onto my bike in the same way that would hook on this bike. So stay tuned to this channel. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see the types of luggage that you can put on here just to get some ideas, because I'll talk about that in a future video as well. But these are little things that I think a lot of people overlook that make this something that, you know, you don't have to take the car. You can take the bike because you can get some of those things you need. If you just had to zip out to the store to get something small, you don't have to wear a backpack. You can get a nice little tail bag here to carry what you need. So this is the Z400. Now let's move to the Ninja and talk about some advantages and differences in that. So taking a look at the 2023 Ninja, you've got this new color scheme here. I really like this brighter green. It stands out more in person than it will to you on the camera, but it kind of gives it that different look, a little bit more modern again. So you can really tell that this is just, you know, a new model if you know the bike. Now, from here back, it's basically the same type of thing. I think the tank is probably the same. We can find that out. But over here, you have the differences. One of the differences is just purely styling, and we're going to take a little closer look at it from this angle. You'll see some of that. You do have a little taller windscreen than just the instrument cluster here. It's going to give you a little bit of extra wind protection, but not a whole lot. It does give you an advantage in a tuck position, which we'll show you that in a second as well. And the whole bike is designed for that tuck position where the Z900 is not, and we'll show you some of those differences and advantages. One thing that people forget when you have a look at the side here is these fairings here, they come out and they do give you extra wind protection on your legs, in your knees. They give you a little bit extra thing. So in a little bit cooler weather, you have a little bit more protection. It's a very mild difference, but it is a difference to this style. So a little bit extra wind protection for both speed, for both comfort, and for style. But we're going to show you some of the differences here with the dash and with the handlebars, because that's going to be a real difference that you're going to notice between the two. So taking a look at the dash on the Ninja 400, you're going to see some differences here. Remember we had that sort of digital tachometer here? Well, now we have a full analog tach. And the handlebars are spinning here just because they want to curl over. So we're going to try to keep them away there. But you can see you still have all the same information. So your digital screen is over here, but your tach is over here. The engines are the same, so it's a carryover type thing, but the look is different. You still got your gear position indicator over here, your overall speedometer. But what I like about this tach is, to me, it is slightly easier to read. Now, I don't know that that matters to a lot of people. Both are still very legible. But again, this gives that little bit more sporting. If you're at the racetrack, you tend to look forward on a racetrack, and in your peripheral vision, you can see where your revs are just because the needle is there. To me, this is a little easier to see in your peripheral vision. So it is something to keep in mind if it matters to you. Functionality, the exact same, so I won't go through that again. The other difference is when I do turn the handlebars here, you can see that key is moving, the handlebars are moving, but the dash on this one is built into the fairing, so it stays straight in front of you. I don't think that makes a difference to a whole lot of people, but it is a difference. One other difference you're going to see is the fairing does give you a few options. So we talked about, the mounting on a handlebar of your phone can be a little easier, but here you have the benefit of what this can be punched out, and you can put a 12-volt or USB socket in there right from Kawasaki's accessories. So that's an option here where it just kind of cleanly mounts out of the wind, out of the way, which is nice. Now again, clip-ons, let's talk about what clip-ons are. You can kind of see how this works. Let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, I think you can see it well. We'll zoom in a little bit here. So zooming in, you can see that there's not really so much of a single handlebar running across, but these are sort of the traditional sport bike type feel. So you don't have that handlebar sitting there. The difference with these, again, is they're going to be turned back more like that compared to something like the Z400. It gives you a little bit narrower feel to your hands, which helps you in that tuck position. Controls are the same, clutch is the same. So now let's show you back-to-back riding positions to show you those differences. So I'm about 6 feet tall, about a 32-inch inseam, I think. This is a compact bike, and you're going to see that. My size 11 feet here are another thing that you have to keep in mind. If you had like size 13 feet on both these bikes, you can see I am just clearing the muffler here. So when I'm in the right proper riding position, I can put my foot on the brake, I can come back to a proper riding position, and I'm totally fine. But if you had really big feet, like size 15 or something like that, you are probably going to sit on the heat shield there. Like I'm at the edge of my toes, so you'd have to have much bigger feet than me, but it is a bit more of a compact feel. So sitting on this, let's talk about the advantages of the Ninja, and we'll talk about the advantages of the Z400. Again, handlebars are a little bit more in. That's going to be kind of equal for comfort. You can see I have a little bit of a forward lean. We'll show you how much of a forward lean is there. I'm sitting far forward on this seat just to give you the example, sort of to minimize that forward lean. Now, this windshield, when I go in a full tuck position, you're going to move back a little bit, and it does give you the ability to kind of send the wind right over your helmet. So if you really want to be aerodynamic, that's a benefit. The other difference is, on the Z400, the mirrors are back here. We'll talk about the advantages of having the mirrors here, but on the Ninja, the advantages of having the mirrors out here on the fairing means if you do go into that tuck position, the mirrors are still in front of you. So you can sit there in a tuck position and constantly have a good view behind you. Those are really the key differences. So again, sitting on this, height on the ground, very flat-footed. You can be a shorter person than me without any trouble. You can be a taller person than me without any trouble. You've got room here. Again, that fairing gives me a little bit of wind protection as it comes out here in front of my knees. But this is what I look like on a Ninja 400. I'm going to move the Z400 in here with editing. I'm going to try to keep it as clean as I can. I'll sit on that bike, and you can hopefully see it sort of blend into a similar difference. So let's do that right now. All right, so I don't know if I got it in the exact same position, but the same thing. I'm sitting up close to the tank. I feel like I'm not quite as far leaned over, but it's at the point where neither one is uncomfortably forward. Keep in mind, when you have a slight lean, you're going to have some wind resistance anyways, which is going to help hold you up. So there's no real weight on your hands either way. There is a feeling of a little bit more width to the handlebar here because they're not tucked in here, they're out over here. So that is something you notice. Now, mirrors over here, these are actually very good. They can be moved around in different ways. If I go into a tuck position here, the aerodynamics are not working necessarily with me. There will be some wind coming in below me because I can't get my helmet low enough to keep all the wind out of here. That's the advantage of sport bike styling. It is what it is. But, and again, if I go over here, the mirrors are behind me. But when I sit upright on this bike, which is how you're going to ride it probably most of the time, these mirrors, because they're closer to you, now give you a little bit more of a wide angle. And to be fair, this bike was just built yesterday, and I can tell you right now, the mirrors are not perfectly set up the way I'd like them. They got them to me as quick as they could. So this will be touched up before it leaves the showroom. But the idea with these mirrors being this way is because they're closer to you. If you ever hold a mirror closer to you, you have a wider angle view behind you, and that will be one benefit of having these mirrors the way they are on the Z400. So styling differences are there, but practical differences are also there just based on how they're set up. So let's talk about who these bikes are for. Well, as I mentioned off the top, both of these bikes are bikes that I recommend to new riders. They are really versatile, and the difference with recommending these to new riders versus recommending bikes to new riders in the past is some bikes for new riders used to be beginner bikes, and they very much were that. These bikes are a little different. They have manageable power, comfortable seating positions, good safety features, and they're lightweight, which makes them good bikes for new riders. The difference is some of those same features really make these good for experienced riders because, like I said off the top, you really can't replicate the feel of this lightweight, nimble bike in a larger bike with a bigger engine. So there are reasons to go for more speed, or more accurately, better acceleration. Now these things are still very, very quick. They're going to be, as fast as most sports cars, 0 to 60. So they are not slow at all. But mid-level to high-level bikes in the Kawasaki lineup are going to have, supercar type 0 to 60 type performance. So that's something to keep in mind, is you do have that option by moving up. But from a pure fun perspective, these are fantastic in either way. Now, I lean a little bit more to the Ninja because, to me, some Ninjas can get to an uncomfortable stage, and we'll talk about those in future videos, but this one is still very comfortable, and I like that little bit of wind protection there. I like the feeling of that. But you may prefer this and that. This one here, it's a little bit more upright position, a little wider position, the mirrors being a little closer. There's really no difference. Either one is going to be an absolute blast, and the best thing is you can come check them out for yourself. If you're here in the Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals area, not only do we have these two 23s that just showed up, we have a whole bunch of 2022s, which can save you a little bit of money, give you a little extra money for a helmet or other gear or that kind of thing that you want. We have a full line of them, and there's about 20,000 square feet of showroom space here with all kinds of bikes to see, so you can come check them out for yourself. I do recommend, if you're shopping for either of these bikes, that you sit on both, because you may find that you sit on one and you prefer one over the other. Like I said, for me, I kind of prefer this. Now, having said that, I bought a Z series bike, a Z400 RS, and again, it has all the benefits of this. So again, one may appeal to you over the other, but they are essentially the same bike underneath, and that means that they're just going to be a lot of fun regardless of which bike you choose. So if you have questions and you want to know more about these, let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor, subscribe. We'll talk about luggage that can fit on these bikes as I talk about other stuff. We'll talk about riding. We'll talk about all kinds of things with these bikes in the future. And let me know if you have one. Let me know what you think of it right in the comments below, and we'll just create a little community here of fans of this bike. Thanks everybody for watching.